Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much for those of y'all that are going to watch this later, whether it's on TikTok or you find it on YouTube or Facebook. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to hear what it is that we have to say. Again, my name is Jerico Brown. I am the candidate running for Congress in the 7th Congressional District for the U.S. House of Representatives. First, I might not add, right, y'all, we got some big shoes to fill, right? We have some big shoes to fill. We are standing after Danny Davis, who have held this seat since 1997. I know he's made a great endorsement. I know there are people that are fighting for this seat, and here I go, no political background, no political experience. Here I go, saying, hey, I want to be a part of this next generation of freedom fighters. Excuse me. I want to be a part of this next generation of freedom fighters. Y'all, the reason we're here today is not to announce candidacy, not to rally you to love us. We are here today to ensure that you understand that where we are headed is so much greater than where we've been. We are here today to encourage the American people to stand up for what they believe in. We're here today to reactivate those that have not voted. We are here to encourage those that are 18 or older to get registered to vote. We are here today to scream that freedom must ring across America. We are here today, as so many people have done before me, like Jesse Jackson and my pastor, the late Dr. Reverend Leon D. Finney Jr., and the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. We are here to ensure that freedom rings. We are here to ensure that those liberty bells that Dr. King once heard will ring again throughout the United States of America. And you say, well, why today? Why, Jerico, must you run for Congress? Why don't you sit back and continue to preach from your church? And why don't you sit back and continue to do what you've been doing? Because I am confident that we have done the work across the state of Illinois, across the city of Chicago, to ensure that we were not chasing popularity, but that we were meeting the needs of the people. I believe that there are enough people in Congress, in the House of Representatives, that hang out. There are enough elected officials that hang out. There are enough pastors that are big enough that, get to run to the city hall and get their name known across the states and preach all around the nation. I'm confident that there's a lot of great folk that are doing all of those things. And today, I am standing before you because I am confident. Y'all notice I keep using that word confident. I am confident that I don't fit the mold. And America needs somebody that doesn't fit the mold. America needs candidates that are against fitting in. There has been a story of America recently that states that you are Democrat or Republican. There has been a story, a narrative created, there has been a narrative created across America that you are liberal or conservative. There has been a narrative that said that you must pick one and not the other. There is a narrative that says that you must stand up for guns or stand up for affordable housing. There has been a story of America that said if I'm elected to the people in my congressional district, that if I'm a Democrat, I must represent the Democrats. What I'm saying to you all is that the standard tells us that there must be taxation without representation. Today, I'm not running just as a Democrat. I am running as a man with a family. I am running as a man that has fought for members of our community for a little bit over a decade. I've been a pastor in Chicago for 14 years, an active duty service member. I was a reservist as a combat engineer. And over this journey, I'm reminded, over the journey of going to basic combat training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, going to AIT in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, going to prior service basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, going to, another AIT or Advanced Individual Training in Fort Lee, Virginia, being stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado, I'm reminded that the work of a soldier does not end when we take our uniform off. But for some soldiers, it's just the beginning. Today, my work is just beginning. I'm reminded that as a pastor, when I take my robe off, sometimes the sermon just started being preached at the end of worship. Today, I'm changing my pulpit. Today, I'm changing my battlefield. Today, my voice shall ring across America. You all are going to notice, I think I have to put this out here, you all are going to notice that I don't aim to show you all that I have read from a thesaurus or a dictionary. I do not aim to use larger words to stretch that I am intelligent. But instead, I aim to speak with clarity. Today, I aim to speak to the American people. So to the point that you actually can understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. There are people that we represent in our congressional district that are not well versed in big words. But yet they're going to vote for the person that the community tells them to vote for. They're going to vote for the person that spends the most money and make the greatest investment. I am not spending $1 million on the campaign. I am not. Can I tell y'all this early? I know everybody likes to win. I'm not going to go too far. Everybody wants to win. You all want to win, right? You all are not sitting in this room supporting me because you don't want to win. You're sitting in this room supporting me because you're saying, Jerico, I believe that we can win. But Jerico, if you get up there and you tell the American people that you're not going to spend $1 million, somebody's going to say you're going to lose. But I am not spending $1 million on campaigning. If this administration, if this group of Brown for Congress, if this organization that we represent is going to take the time to fundraise, if you all are going to join me and do some grassroots stuff like knocking on doors on Saturdays, making phone calls and phone banking on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I think instead of me taking millions of dollars and investing it in flyers and posters, I think that the $1 million or the money that we raise should go to projects that represent what we stand for in our congressional district. For us, this is new. For us, politics is new. For us, standing on the stage, speaking for the entire American body is new. But I am not going to be afraid of launching out into something new. But instead, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to encourage all Americans, all of our constituents, all of our supporters, all of our followers, let's do something new. Let's do something uncomfortable. I sit on organizations, I attend meetings with pastors that are going to follow the machine. While I sit in the back of the room and watch them follow the machine. But we cannot continue to scream that things are wrong in our community while still following the machine. We cannot continue to preach about injustices in our pulpit while we're still following the machine. You all will not see Jerico Brown in pulpits across the nation preaching about my political aim. As a pastor of a church in Chicago called Renewal Life Church, my members don't hear that pastor preaching politics from the pulpit, but instead they hear that pastor preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. Because I pastor on Sunday and I politic on my own time. My members will never get an opportunity to see elected officials run throughout our pulpit. with a message around election time to encourage us to vote. If that's the way that we have to win, I promise you all one fact: I'm going to lose. If the only way I win for the people, for the citizens of the 7th Congressional District is if we encourage our pulpits to be used for political gain, I'm going to lose. They said don't fix a system that's working. Can I tell you all a secret? It's not working. We as a people must stand up because the system is not working. Jerico isn't here to tell you the system is broken. I'm just telling you it's not working. There's a swamp that needs to be drained. There is a division that needs to be erased. There is a system rooted in racism that needs to be abolished. There is an educational system across the country that's failing. Prisons need to be reformed. Our law enforcement personnel need to be taken care of. Mental health needs to be a priority. We don't have time to continue to do what we used to do. We don't have time to ignore the little guy. We watched in the last presidential debate, we watched how the current president, Joe Biden, stood there holding the line for Democrats. And we watched how President Donald Trump stood there and spoke up for Republicans. And then we saw how social media took the words of President Donald Trump into Washington, took it throughout the world, screamed it in your house. It woke up a group of conservatives that had laid dormant. It woke up a group of racists. I'm going to call a spade across this entire campaign. We are not playing dirty, but we are not playing fair. I am not calling you to disrespect fellow Americans. Instead, I'm calling you to unite with fellow Americans. This is a campaign where I aim to support that 700,000 residents in this community. They said, well, Jerico, it's not campaign season. Why are you campaigning so early? Because I know the power of longevity. I understand the benefit of a consistent approach. And I also understand that I don't have the political dollars or political reach as those that I'm running against. This is not a conversation to divide the Democratic vote. But instead, this is a conversation that requires us to stand in together. When you think about the 2024 election, Danny Davis won with 222,000 votes. He won with 83% of the votes. Republican Chad ran and got 44,000 votes, giving him 16.69% of the votes, giving us a total of 267,152 votes for our congressional district. If we ask the question, how many people are registered to vote? When we ask that question, how many people are registered to vote in the 7th Congressional District of Illinois, we are left to question what is the facts. When we look at how many people are in the district, we're left to question, what are the facts? Well, the facts are simply this. There are 760,000 residents in the 7th Congressional District. Out of that 760,000 residents, only 220,000 are registered to vote. I am confident that we can go to every member in our district and encourage them to sign up and register to vote. I am confident that if we stand as an American people, when it comes November of 2026, Illinois, can I talk to you all? And the reason why, let me say this to you real quick. I thank you again for your time. The reason why I say 100% of the time America and not just this district is because for so long we have chosen our representatives based off of what they promised in our district. But when they go to Washington, D.C., they are a part of an entire group of people. There is a group of senators. There are a group of representatives, right? And we must work together in order to build an America. And right now, I know people keep telling me, Jerico, we can't work together. They don't want to hear us. The left is saying this, the right is saying that. It has to be a moment when the adults come to the table and tell the children, enough is enough. There has to be a moment where the leaders come together and tell the population, enough is enough. This is our season to focus. If President Donald Trump is saying, hey, we're going to drain the swamp, we're going to get rid of these people, we're going to make American first, let him. So that means that in places like Illinois, that means in my district, starting in November, right, from my first day in office, I'm going to be reaching back to our elected officials in the state of Illinois. And I'm going to ask questions. What can I do from my seat here to ensure that farming become a priority in Washington, D.C.? What can I do to make sure that education, that STEM education, right, is a priority? When we look at communities like Broadview or Bellwood or Chicago or Forest Park or Hinsdale or Oak Park or LaGrange Park or Maywood or River Forest or Winchester, the question is, Westchester, the question is, or even Berkeley, the question is, what can we do from Washington, D.C. to ensure that we're working around the clock to give you the resources you need to better your communities? And bettering our communities is not Republican versus Democrat. Bettering our community is the person that wins the office stands up for the American people. I represent 700,000 people. If only 200,000 people vote for me, that doesn't mean that I don't love the 700,000 people and I don't have to represent the 700,000 people. I must hear the voices of the left and the right. And some of you all are screaming that they're left extremists and they're right extremists. My job in my state is to bring us together. I cannot go into every state across the United States of America and make them work together, but I can do everything I can to make sure that we work together in the state of Illinois. I can do everything I can to stand up for justice in the state of Illinois. Why? Because I know that we have problems. I know that you all are screaming that some of our prisons are modern day prisons, are modern day slavery. I'm aware of that. And I'm aware that we must all work together from the federal level to the lowest local level. We must work together to end this kind of free slavery concept. Tax dollars are being paid to house inmates. And there are organizations around the world that are making money hand over fist by housing inmates in prison. I have heard the conversations of the American people. And I want to respond that it is now time for us to become more radical than we ever been before. Can y'all hear me today? It is time for us to become more radical than we've ever been before. It is time for us to stand up for one another in a way that we have never stood up for one another before. As a Democrat, some people say, Jerico, you are a capitalist. You believe in, they called me all kind of things. They said I was a socialist. They said, I had one person say, well, man, you might be a conservative and you're false flagging. I've heard all kinds of things. I am an American. And I hear you. Some of you all have asked me for my birth certificate. We're not going to start that. You all are laughing in this room. Excuse me. You all are laughing in this room, but people ask me, show me your birth certificate. I was like, man, y'all sure I want to run? They messing with me already. But the answer to my own question is yes, I want to run. Yes, I want to fight for the American public. Because that's what these offices should be. I want to spend the next 365 days fighting for the American people. I want to spend the next year encouraging each and every American on the value of their vote. There are states where the Democrats are not registering to vote, where Democrats are switching parties. There are states where elected officials, mid-election, I'm talking about in a term, are switching parties. I'm not switching parties. There are flaws in the Republican Party, just like there are flaws in the Democratic Party. I am standing for the party. They said the Democratic Party needs new leadership. I'm not aiming to be a leader over the Democratic Party. I am running because the people need a voice. I am running because we need somebody that cannot be bought. I am running because we need somebody that is not going to say big business wins. We need somebody that is going to stand up and actually fight to reform our schools. We need somebody that is not afraid to speak the truth. And I know this begins to open up Pandora's box. Running for political office, people begin to find dirt on you. And they're going to tell stories. And I am committed to not responding to any of the stories. I am committed to running a race free from hate speech. I am confident that they can drag me if they want to drag me. I am confident that they can knock me down if they want to knock me down. I am confident that they can push me. I am confident that they can try to bend me as much as they want to bend me, because one thing is true, that with God on my side, I cannot break. I'm not trying to preach y'all, but I get excited. I get excited when I think about our opportunity in history. Every American in this building, every American on this internet, and that's what you are. You are not a Democrat or a Republican. You are an American. You are an American. We live in a constitutional republic, which means that our forefathers have written doctrine. And from that doctrine, we aim to build laws and regulations. But we also know that some of that doctrine is flawed. And I'm not here to campaign to change all the doctrine. I am here to campaign with common sense policies. I am here to speak to the American people. I am here to be reminded of the words that we hear across the military. This we'll defend. I'm reminded that in a place called Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, that there's a word that we learned that means let us try. I remember belonging to the 863rd Combat Engineer Battalion outside of Darien, Illinois, and I was a reservist, and we had a crash. And on that crash, it had this word that said, tackle anything. This phrase, tackle anything. And I remember thinking about the boldness. As a 17 or 18-year-old kid, I was thinking about the boldness it took to be willing to tackle anything. This word, which you're going to hear me say throughout my campaign, is called essayance. Let us try. It's a French word. It says, let us try. Essayance is the motto of the United States of America's Army Corps of Engineers. Essayance. When you hear me say essayance, I want you all to understand that that is the guiding principle of the United States of America's Corps of Engineers. It is an honor given to the French engineers who had assisted the Continental Army, during the Revolutionary War. It is a reminder that for over 250 years, the men and women have put on uniforms every single day to build bridges, to level playing fields. Some of you all laughing. To destroy barriers. And I know when you hear essayance, they're doing it with C4. Jerico Brown is not doing it with C4. Jerico Brown is doing it with his voice, with his signature on bills that support a better America, coming out of the House of Representatives. For the Corps of Engineers, essayance implies a proactive approach. Do you mind if I break this down for a moment? It provides a proactive approach, essayance, meaning that we will stand in the front lines from now until our time is up. We will stand against the idea of a civil war in America. As they're screaming, let it burn, we're saying essayance. We are proactive against any variation of a civil war in America. America does not need to be torn apart. America needs to be built stronger than it's ever been before. America does not need to be ripped apart where conservatives versus liberals. America needs to bring a conservative approach with a liberal's hand to transform this nation. You all can't get angry with me when I say we must tackle our gun violence issues. We must curb the issues. Leaders across the nation, we must work together. And you're going to say, Jerico, do you think taking our weapons away is going to stop the issue? No, taking our weapons away will not stop the issue. You're not going to get me getting up here screaming as a Democrat. I hate guns. I love the smell of gunpowder in the morning. I love the sound of an M4 when it fire rounds down range. I love the sound of it. So I'm not going to tell you that as a Democrat I want you to do away with your weapons. I am going to encourage us as a people to stand up for one another. I'm going to encourage us for people to create a sensible one-gun act. Not a one-gun limit, but one act, one bill, one law that can be agreed upon from both sides of the table in the Senate. People ask every politician what's their view. I'm going to tell you mine. I'm telling you now, we have to be proactive. We don't want to be a gun-toting nation. This isn't the old Wild Wild West. I can't give you references on the Wild West. I wasn't there. I was born in 1990. Some of y'all are saying we won't vote for you if you won't do away with guns. The reality is, we're not going to do away with guns. If you take the gun, can I be sensible? Can I say something to everybody in the room? If we take away guns from the law-abiding citizens, and they robbing freight trains in the middle of the night and stealing the guns out the freight train, we take away the ability for the everyday American to defend themselves. Proactive solutions. School systems are failing. We're watching a decline in public schools like Chicago public schools and other schools all around the nation. Schools are going in deficits while heating, lighting, and maintaining empty buildings, half-used buildings, while we have an affordable housing issue across the nation. As Sayans, we can work together, proactive. We can work together. We can work with our local public school system. Why? Because in the state of Illinois, we have 144,000 affordable housing unit deficit. Homelessness is a problem across the nation. Locking them up and putting them in mental institutes is not an option. I don't think that's the best option. But I think is that if we start, I know this is going to make some principals mad. I'm going to lose some votes. I'm not trying to get you out of work. But if we combine some of our schools, underperforming facilities, if your school fits 3,000 people and you got 250, but 5 blocks away is another school, I'm not saying, listen, I was here in Chicago when they rehabbed the schools and they closed down all of those public schools. I disagree with it 100%. But the reality is that if we're not willing to stand up and be proactive, we have to get ahead of the curve. Our children are reading. Some of these numbers are coming out. 17% of the children are reading at or above grade level. We have all of these principals with schools, all of these staff members. I'm not telling you to fire them. Let's figure out a way to combine resources. I know a lot of people are going to lose power. A lot of people that are supported, a lot of people that are given credit are going to lose positions, and you all are voting to maintain positions. I think we need to have a conversation with Chicago's teachers union and every teachers union around the nation. And we need to sit down and create a comprehensive plan. I'm getting to my next point. As Sayans, once we go from being proactive, some of this stuff is daring. I know for some of you all, I'm committing political suicide before I get started. But systems that are not working need to be fixed. We cannot keep throwing money into systems that are not working. We cannot keep throwing money at the problem with no real solutions. We must take some of our organizations down to its rarest form. Start over, if you will. This isn't an overnight solution, but over the next decade, if we work together, we can ensure our schools are healthy. Our children are healthy. We need a plan that takes us beyond 2036. Because Illinois, that's what I represent. For the 7th Congressional District, I represent not just a phone call to your elected official, but I represent a comprehensive plan that ensures that America continues to thrive as the richest and strongest nation in all of humanity. SAIs. We must be proactive, daring, and determined. That's how we solve complex problems. We are in war. This is a war. And I'm not encouraging you to rise up in arms and prepare to fight. We are in war against a failing educational system. We are at war against a failing social service system. Section 8 creating lifetime members on programs like Section 8, being able to inherit Section 8 is not a solution to our problem. And when you say you're taking Section 8 away, you're not pointing a finger at one community versus another. This isn't white or black. This isn't Latino. This is American. You all are asking me what's my issues, what are my views on immigration reform. There needs to be a streamlined system. There needs to be a collective effort. We have embassies all around the world. There needs to be a collective effort between those that are appointed to embassies, those that staff embassies, and the United States of America immigration system. Our president and elected officials, we should entrust them to determine how many people come into America a year. If you all want to secure our border, we should come up with an agreement as to how to secure the border. If we're going to open our border, we should come up with an agreement how to open the border. But we need to pick one. And we pick one by sitting down and having a conversation. I promise to be a voice. I'm going to run up and down the halls. And some of you all, the elected officials that are staying in Washington, and you're saying, oh man, this boy finna come in here and make some noise. I'm about to make all the noise I can. Bipartisan noise. Bipartisan noise. Bipartisan noise. Stop telling me we can't work together. Bipartisan noise. Stop telling me we cannot work together. Bipartisan noise. Stop telling me that it's Democrat versus Republican. Bipartisan noise. Everybody in this room make some bipartisan noise. We must work together to ensure that America thrives. And it's not going to thrive if for 4 years we have Democrats and then 4 years we get a Republican and they undo everything that Democrats did. We are not moving forward. And those of y'all that talk about Christian values, I didn't come here to argue the Bible. But it is not a violation of my Christian principles to ensure that all Americans have access to health care. Health care is for every American, every citizen. Health care should be given to all Americans. And we should have access to free health care and private health care. That should be a standard in every state. believe that the insurance companies should work together. And if you all refuse to work with our government to provide quality services to our communities, we should not carry your policies in our state. If we don't want to create a comprehensive lifeline for the American people, why are you here? The rich are rich enough. I don't know how ambitious it is to ask for a government-sponsored health program, health insurance, where you pay in. Those that can afford to pay a premium. And those that can't get a subsidy. I don't know what that looks like. But if you ask me what's my recommendation, that's my recommendation. I believe that we should still be fighting to build quality health care across this nation. People should not have to wait weeks, months for doctor's appointments. And people should not have to suffer because of the zip code that they live in. That's not a social experiment. That's a reality. If you don't want health care, let me tell you something. Everybody argues about whether or not they need it. But with the raising prices of health care in this nation, I'm reminded that health care should be given to every American. Every American should have it. Right? So listen to what I'm saying. It's a crazy thing to believe. But if we start making investments into things in our own nation, I hear y'all Social Security. I'm so glad I'm not running for president. I don't know what to do. Listen, Social Security. What should we do about Social Security? You know, I've saw research. I've had conversations with people. Social Security, some of the numbers I saw, they have argued that Social Security won't be around by the time somebody like me needs it. I believe there are people on Social Security that shouldn't be on Social Security. There are people that are eligible to work that are not working. This is the deal. If we're going to clean Social Security, before we destroy Social Security, we should make sure that people have the right and opportunity to invest in 401ks. Right? Or other retirement plans. I think that part of our local school curriculum should be investment. I think high school senior year, there should be a requirement that every senior takes a investment class. And once they turn 18 and they go into college, I think we should start encouraging them to put money away for their future. Some people are going to be angry with this. I know some of you all ain't going to listen to nothing I'm saying. Yeah. Some of you all going to boo me. So, the reality is what? It is time for America to have options. This two-party system is dangerous. So I'm going to screen bipartisan efforts. I know I'm going to sit across the aisle from people that are going to hate me. I love all of us. I was born into a Democratic family. That's all I know. I've had Republican friends. I've had some Republican arguments, all right? Again, that make you less human to me. That make me love you less. I know pastors that are Republican. Oh well, all right? We still serve the same people. We serve the same communities. We serve side by side. It is now time for us to look at our issues in our nation. And for those of y'all that are going to find one part of this video earlier and then not this part, I am not attacking Chicago Public Schools or Chicago Police Department. I love my city. Y'all, I'm from Chicago. I'm from Chicago. I'm from Chicago. I was born at St. Bernard Hospital. We lived in what they call the low terrace. From the low terrace, we moved down to the low end. You don't know the low end, you ain't from Chicago, right? Spent years on the low end. Then we moved over to Woodlawn. Spent years in Woodlawn. Then we moved out of Woodlawn and we moved to Roseland. I'm sorry, we moved to Brownsville. And we moved to Roseland. And now we're serving from the back of the yards neighborhood, right? I've lived in Romeoville. I've lived in Crest Hill. I've lived in Joliet. I spent time in places like Bolingbrook, right? I lived in our state. Today, I am standing with each American. Every member, every citizen, every Chicagoan, and surrounding suburbs, right? We're here to fight for freedom. We're freedom fighters. SAIans, we're not giving up. We're determined to win. When this video starts circulating, you all are gonna hear us have like all of the big conversations, right? It's time to talk about it. It's time to come to the table. Mental health is a priority in our community. We must deal with mental health. Y'all get mad if y'all want to. We must deal with mental health. Again, I gave you snippets in this conversation today because we only got about an hour together, right? We're going to have about 60 minutes together. You all, we're going to try to come together at least once a week for the next year to come up with a comprehensive plan. Again, people ask me about my initiatives. One of my biggest initiatives is housing. My second biggest initiative is education. The third thing, these are things that are dear to me. Mental health, education, affordable housing, right? Affordable housing, mental health, education, right? Education, mental health, affordable housing. However you want to spend it, right? I am confident as a leader in this nation that we must work together. I am confident as a pastor that if we want to thrive, we must strive together. America, this is our moment. This is our time to shine. Again, my name is Jerico Brown. I am our candidate for Congress running for the U.S. House of Representatives from 7th Congressional District in the state of Illinois. You all be blessed, be encouraged, and remember, SAIans. SAIans.